перекрыл?
Нет, в принципе.
Сколько там?
780.
Нормально. Там у меня есть запас, лучше приоткрыть. Так, а здесь?
760. Там имеет смысл все вместе добавить чуть-чуть.
А здесь?
780.
Ну давай чуть-чуть все подкинем.
Дамы и господа, наша сессия начнется с минуты на минуту. Напоминаем, что все трансляции нашего конгресса вы можете посмотреть на сайте congress.eabr.org. Также напоминаем, что для профилактики и борьбы с коронавирусной инфекцией необходимо оставаться в масках и перчатках до конца нашего мероприятия. Занимайте, пожалуйста, места ближе к сцене. Спасибо.
Но здесь меньше на 15 минут. Здесь 795.
Все, заебись.
Дамы и господа, наша сессия начинается. Все трансляции конгресса вы можете посмотреть на сайте congress.eabr.org. Занимайте, пожалуйста, места ближе к сцене. Дамы и господа, мы начинаем совсем скоро. Напоминаем вам, что для профилактики в целях борьбы с коронавирусной инфекцией мы просим вас оставаться в масках и перчатках до конца нашего мероприятия. Также напоминаем, что все трансляции нашего конгресса вы можете смотреть на сайте congress.eabr.org. Дамы и господа, мы начинаем нашу сессию. Напоминаем вам, что все трансляции Конгресса вы можете посмотреть на сайте congress.eabr.org. Дамы и господа, мы приглашаем на сцену участников сессии. Барский Кирилл Михайлович, посол по особым поручениям МИД России. Дамы и господа, извините, мы начинаем с минуты на минуту.
Ну что, начинаем?
Дамы и господа, на сцене участники сессии.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again, and I'd like to give floor to, of course, a welcome here, head of Schneider Electric in Russia and CIS. Jonas, thank you very much. And we have, of course, Kirill Barsky, an envoy to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And let's welcome the speakers, by the way, because we also have speakers joining us online. We have Antonio Falico, chairman of the board of Intesa Bank. Thank you, sir, for being with us. We have Alexander Shokhin, chairman of the Russian Union for Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. We have Vladimir Chizov, of course, permanent representative of Russian Federation in the European Union. And we also have Bekentesh Farma, the envoy of India in Russian Federation, and we have Kara Telembedov from Strategic Planning and Initiatives of Kazakhstan, the head of Financial Center Astana. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Thank you, all of you, for being with us. We have Mikhail Harbs as well, Executive Director of the Eastern Committee for German Economy. And we have Yu Zhaihua, Deputy Head of Commerce of Chinese Republic. And, of course, last but not least, we have Andrei Slipnev, of course. Oh, yes, no, wait. Not yet. We have one more. Sorry? I forgot to say that we also have someone who you probably know, Andrei Slipnev, of course, member of the Trade and Economic Chamber from the Eurasian Commission. So, Andrei, welcome. Yes, welcome, everyone. We're finally here. Everyone's set. I'm sorry, we are sort of late, but it's totally okay. It's a mixed format. It's a hybrid format. It's happening so far. No problem. I mean, we're sort of getting used to everything's fluid, it's all fine, don't worry about it, so we'll catch up. So let's do it. Anyways, yes, I understand. This is a milestone. This is the first ever Eurasian Congress, and the world will never be the same, as we all know. And we have discussed it so many times. what's in future, what is this new normal? What's life gonna be? We talked in our association, and let's not forget that we recently had a discussion at the RSPP, at the Russian Union of Industrialists Forum. Here we have also Mr. Farikov here, and many other places. We have been discussing it for quite a while, and we definitely have seen certain results, and we definitely no longer speculating, but we actually seen some trends. And look, there's something that I would like to share with you, something that I would like to start as the first item. Look, the pandemic and the COVID and everything that has to do with it. Look, and this is a catalyst, right? It's a catalyst of change that were meant to be, that were meant to come. It's just that the COVID catalyzed this, and now it is part of this world. But are you ready? Are you not ready? Are you ready to pivot? Are you not? So do you realize it? Are you aware of it? I understand that, sure. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here to discuss it, to talk about it, and this is very important. And look, this is no longer some futuristic sci-fi thing. No, this is not. There's no visionary topic here. This is here and now. We're discussing things that are at our fingertips. This is something that we see and hear and basically experiencing all the time, every single day. And of course, technology is a major driver. Some say that there's another technology revolution, Revolution 4.0 or something like that. And of course, it's about digitalization of everything. It's about climate change. It's about green technology. It's about ESGs. It's about lots of other things. It is happening all over the place. And of course, they're all intertwined. It's all interconnected. We see power market, energy market, multiple changes that are coeluting at the same time, so to say. And life is changing as we know it. And things have changed. The usual things have transformed and gone away. And the new things have come. And there's also political tension, the trade wars and geopolitics and whatnot, and all of that sort of tears us apart and brings together, and there's quite a turbulence, quite a time. Very unusual. And at the same time, we see anti-globalization, we see regional times getting stronger, and for multiple reasons, including some of the fatigue from globalization, and we know that globalization is not definitely in the best shape. We see countries being pulled apart. We see rise of nationalism for sure. And look at us here, right? Look at how many forums have canceled, right? Look at all the online audience. I'm sure that more people watching us online than offline. But no matter. We still have to do it. And the main challenge, by the way, that's something that I would like to talk about today during this panel. So, do we have more understanding and awareness, the fact that we need to be together, join forces, collaborate for the sake of progress, right? For the sake of efficiency and performance, to do better, to create a better, more balanced and inclusive world? Or, on the other hand, are we going to drown in this political controversy? Are we being pulled apart by all the politics and all the barriers? What are we doing more? More of a positive, more of a negative? So what kind of flavor of a political agenda and this whole idea of this big Eurasian space, and this has been in the air for so many years. And that's why we have the Eurasian Development Bank and hence the first Eurasian Congress, right? The reason for this whole Eurasian discussion is the fact that there's so many controversial topics taking place. And look, we talked about it as we prepared for the forum. And these are all the items that we need to go through. So what do we see more of in our relationship? More awareness that we are all in the same boat? Or do we understand that, look, the national politics starts to dominate the agenda? Of which, what do we have more? The first or the other? And what are the drivers that will help us transition in the most pain-free way? What kind of ideas, projects, activities on the ground that will help us instead of just political slogans? Surely, this isn't the time for political slogans. It's time to do real things. So, and this is what I'm going to exchange, and this is my ideas for you. So we're doing this here in Russia, in Moscow, in downtown Moscow. So I would like to begin this series of questions with the political component. Let's start with the politics, and then we can transition from politics to business. And for that, I would like to give floor to Mr. Barskov, Kirill Barskov. Sorry, you've been around. This isn't your first rodeo. You've been on both sides of the barricade, so to say. And you are also very, very deeply involved in this whole Eurasian thing. So, what say you? What are we doing more? Are we getting closer together or being pulled apart? Thank you, by the way. Thank you for having me. Look, I am absolutely confident, and I'm definitely seeing it based on my analysis of the situation, based on what's happening around the world and here in the post-Soviet Union space. Look at what's happening right now. Look, we we live in this very unprecedented nationalism, rise of nationalism, protectionism. What was the last time you've seen so much nationalism, where you see this fractionation of economic space, where the political rivalry gets so advanced and so open, where using where the exact same tools that were supposed to mend things are being used to broken things, to break things, and at the same time we're becoming more and more interdependent. So it's a weird environment. So we understand that we are all together, but at the same time there's so much fighting, there's so much animosity. So, but the question was, in percentage terms, of which we see more of. I would say that it's a very controversial. It's hard to even say, and I potentially see a lot of dangers here. Most countries, I believe, trying to stick to what they know. And every time there's a crisis, they try to improve their ties, improve their connections, to focus on integration, things like that. And with that, of course, you need something, some sort of an idea that will bring people together, that will bring countries together. And I think that this President Putin's initiative about this Eurasian partnership is a good idea. So this Eurasian partnership, what's in store? What are the benefits for this macro region? What should we expect from it? Well, the benefits are multiple and diverse. And this project can bring tremendous value to the region and to specific stakeholders within the region, to each of the countries that will partake in this process. Well, let me start by saying that, look, the whole idea of this big Eurasian Union, of this one space, should it be done properly, of course, can actually bring together true and proper communication that was interrupted, unfortunately, due to the recent political events and sanctions and whatnot, and now the COVID pandemic and all that. We can finally bring back true communication, true partnerships. Just to reconfirm the commitment, right, so that we are committed to the fundamental principles of international law. And maybe, in view of this new situation, right, maybe we can actually enhance it with some new values and new principles. And many countries, I'm sure, will subscribe to that, such as, for example, Eurasian solidarity principle. How about that? Eurasian solidarity, such as the priority of supranational interests versus national ones, a long-term versus short-term, political and economic stability. Like, for example, show me anyone who is against that. Because this is common sense. This is something that will benefit all. So everyone should be in favor of that, right? I don't think there's anyone who says, no, I'm against that. I don't see that. But for this to happen, it's a very nice idea. But for that, we should stop imposing political recipes, guidelines, take into account with due respect the national specifics, and stop being dictatorships. Political and economic dictatorships. So it's a very, very fine line. Very fine line. Yes, Eurasian space is open to all member states and all private and public and quasi-public and private initiatives. And if done properly, if combined properly, if we design it properly, then this will create a tremendous push, tremendous development. It is already happening. It is happening as we see. It is happening in between the countries. Everyone I guess have seen it. I mean, look at Russia, look at Kazakhstan, look at Belarus, look at other members of this chain. Look at China, by the way, India, and the ASEAN members. And look at the European Union, by the way. I mean, because they're not too far away, right? And look, we've said so many times that there are multiple benefits. So, and it's a global initiative, really. So, and I truly believe that the kind of discussion, the kind of consultation that is taking place between the Eurasian Economic Commission, the Eurasian Union, and the European Commission, because I mean there is the dialogue. There is a dialogue, and I think this is a very good platform for the future. So, what is Big Eurasia? I think it's about having some common denominator in the first place. I think it's about making sure that we can align and harmonize national, regional, and local strategies. Well, for example, the Eurasian Union is doing that with the Chinese People's Republic because they have this One Belt, One Road, One Belt initiative. And look, as far as the goals and means, they are different, of course, they're different, but still, we're talking about the exact same geographical space, right? The exact same countries, and we actually have very similar far-reaching goals, right? To strengthen infrastructure, to create more economic ties, to improve mutual trade, to prosper, to ensure mutual prosperity of economic systems, etc., etc. I mean, it's a common sense thing that any country would support. So the Big Eurasia, as we see it, as we assume it, is about coordinating our efforts to make sure that transportation works best, to make sure that at all levels and across all platforms we improve our logistics ties. And this is for sure because this is very big geography, so it needs proper transportation and logistics, economic banking, finance, investments. But there has to be an alignment. They say one belt, one road. There has to be indeed one road, not two roads, not like X number of roads that are being a layer over layer on each other of redundancy. For instance, take Europe, Western China, for example. Several countries are member of this route. Or what about the Northern Marine Way that Russia is currently developing? And Russia is not alone there. This is designed jointly with a number of Asian countries, and I'm sure that the European Union will also benefit tremendously from this Northern Marine route. So the Big Eurasia is about economic corridors, is about huge highways, right? Metaphorically speaking, because the economic development, job opportunities, new communities, and enhanced growth, industrial parks, terminals and ports, logistics facilities, all of that and far beyond, all of that is going to be taking place. And here we have, look, this brings so much opportunity to all the countries that are located alongside, right, across this path. They all can contribute, they all can play a part, and they actually can use this as a window of opportunity to enhance some of the poor regions, some of the regions that need development, they failed at. Maybe new cities, new communities, new jobs, new prosperity, new future for many people of these countries. So take, for instance, north-south, this transport route, and that is currently being built using several countries. So Russia, Mongolia, China, how about that? And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So the Big Eurasia is about, look, it's about network of free trade. Network of free trade agreements, and here the Eurasian Union is actually far ahead because we have a number of memorandums, number of agreements signed, and a number of negotiations at the final stage or being approved and finalized. So we've done a lot and advanced a lot in this regard. And we also have a pipeline of new agreements, and I'm sure that soon we will see the day where that network will join a wider free trade network throughout the Eurasian space, including Asia, Asia-Pacific, etc. And of course, this is also about making sure that we collaborate with leading regional and international organizations. For example, a brand new memo announcement between the Eurasian Union and the Shanghai Organization, right? So that's just another way. And let's not forget that the majority of ASEAN, SHORES and others, look, all of these, the United Nations Regional Development Commissions and whatnot. So these are already strategic partners. They're already doing the work on the ground. So, I mean, the agenda is relatively similar. It's all very, very, very similar. It's about creating that open and equal level ground so that it benefits mutually all the member states. So a recent SCO summit took place. And by the way, in the declaration, it says that, yes, they acknowledge the idea of the big Eurasian partnership. So there you go. And by the way, something else. Look, many representatives of the business world, big corporates, they all support it. Russian, Chinese, Indian, Eurasian, Asian companies, they all support this idea. For instance, I recently took part in the 13th Eurasian Economic Forum in Verona, and they all spoke about it. So it's a very popular topic among experts, and you, the experts, I think will confirm it. Last year, for example, St. Petersburg Economic Forum also confirmed that this agenda was very important, and the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok. And again, this item was one of the most important. Of course, the big Eurasia is just an idea. So far, it's just an idea, but I'm absolutely confident that we can do it. Of course, it depends on demand. It depends on just how real, on the commitment, right? And let's see how far this is going to go. And let's see how many true believers we're going to see. And I'm absolutely sure that if it gets in tune with the other developments, no doubt this will happen. And as Marx says here, look, this is sweeping the nations. This idea is very, very popular. There's no hiding from it. And I absolutely believe and absolutely sure that this is the glimpse of the future. This is what the future can be. This can be an incredible, uniting agenda where each and everyone can play their part. Well, thank you. Thank you, Igor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
К нам присоединился Николай Радич Подгузов.
And by the way, we have Mr. Podguzov, the host of this forum. By the way, Eurasian Development Bank, thank you for bringing us together. It's almost a heroic deed. Seriously, the fact that we have the actual audience here, pretty amazing. So just speed it up. Okay, and please stick to the timeline because we have so many speakers. We want to make sure that we'll do it in time. We don't want to get late. And the next floor goes to Mr. Kilimbetov. Yes, Chairman of the Board of Strategic Reform and Planning Agency of the Republic of Kazakhstan, please. And he's a very, very experienced person, and he's been part of the Eurasian Economic Council and at that time, they did a lot. They laid down the foundation of this Eurasian integration. So he's a very, very experienced person. And the role of Central Asia is very, very particular, very, very special role. Because, look, when it comes to big Eurasia, and look, Central Asia definitely plays a central piece. For sure, Central Asia becomes even more central. It's already called central, but it can be super central. I'm talking about human capital, I'm talking about resources and financial market capital, etc., etc., etc. So huge, huge, huge potential. So, from what I know, you are head of International Financial Center Astana. And why don't you share your viewpoint on the contribution of the Financial Center into the development of the innovative economy? And where do you see the participation of Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, for example, in this process? Please, the floor is yours. Thank you, Andrei. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And look, I remember when myself and Mr. Shovalov used to collaborate together, and I think the kind of integration that we actually established back in 1994, by the way, and this was originally the idea of our first president, and that was his lecture at the Moscow State University. And so he mastered about it, he planted the seed And since then, look at where we are. So it was definitely a very, very good idea. So we're very, very grateful to the first president of Kazakhstan for planting that seed. So, of course, we're talking about the pan-Eurasian integration, which goes far, far beyond. So the whole Eurasian Union, the whole initiative, the idea is to make it even more tight. For example, how about the European Union? How about Asian countries? How about Asia Pacific countries? They need to be integrated as well, right? So it's definitely because the European Union has its own agenda. So we definitely need to think about these mutual integrations, big market. And there are certain directives from the European Union that also pretty much tell us that, hey, there has to be a bridge. There has to be a bridge from Europe and Asia. There has to be a better connection, a smarter connection. And there are so many things that can be done. Look, and as far as this one, look, I don't see Central Asia as a transit country only, as a bridge. I see it as an infrastructure element, not just physical, but also digital, social, human capital, institutional, a platform. I see it as a platform, which is a very fashionable word now, but I see it as a platform for the Central Asia and also for the mutual benefit of other countries. I truly believe that the countries of Central Asia can play this very, very important role. So, very important to have access to the global markets. So, and look, ideally, don't forget that we're talking about several million people living here. It's a big market, and it has to be a big part of the global economy. So, connectivity is very, very important between our countries and the whole region. So, and here, the Astana Financial Center that was, of course, personally installed by Mr. Nazarbayev, the president, he plays a very important part. And you know that in line with the Constitution, we actually offer residency, we offer multiple tax benefits and deductions, subsidized rates, and lots of other benefits for any company that finds residency here, especially when it comes to digital technologies and other innovative and disruptive technologies. So many companies come to us for residency. And by the way, there's another conference that's taking place in Moscow, AI Journey by Sberbank, and they were also talking about the whole Eurasian alliance. So very, very important so that we offer the right conditions, not just for the new companies, right? But like I said, and yes, we have very, very strong ties with the Moscow State University, with the Novosibirsk State University, so that we can attract young and vibrant startups. We actually have a separate regulation, but it's called regulatory sandbox. And because of that sandbox, we can actually fast-track all these registration and licensing and residence. I think it has a tremendous future. And I do hope this mutual cooperation between our sandbox and other sandbox and Eurasian Commission, as well as, of course, working with our Chinese partners, I absolutely believe that we can dramatically expand market opportunities for our companies. So when it comes to Chinese development institutions, we definitely work with them. With essentially Shanghai Stock Exchange, by the way, and they are a shareholder of the Kazakh exchange. And we are very, very grateful to them, and we appreciate their partnership. So hopefully we'll continue to be the good partner, good communicator, and good interpreter, if you will, between China and multiple other stakeholders. So, and also the, that Eurasian Development Bank also are present on our platform. And look, we see ourselves as a platform. So, including yuan-based funding, of course. So, we truly believe that the Astana International Financial Center. So, and we talked about it with Mr. Shuvalov. I think that, look, the whole idea of the Eurasian Union as a very competitive platform will, of course, promote business development on a post-Soviet base. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Kamal. Thank you very much. Well, it sounds very optimistic. Central Asia as a key piece, as a platform for the big Eurasian partnership. Well, apart from a slogan, it's actually things on the ground, because Astana is actually been working on this. It's not just talk. I mean, they occupy big space in Nur Sultan, the capital of Kazakhstan. This is talking about real stuff taking place there in Kazakhstan. So it's already happening. So we're very, very grateful for what they're doing in terms of connectivity, in terms of connecting parts of this region, apart from just being a transit country, of course. So, and I think you mentioned China several times. And of course, China is such a big player, hard to ignore, impossible to ignore. And we definitely understand that China is a tremendous economy, very, very powerful, and a tremendous actor. And a huge driver of the whole Eurasian space. And we're definitely going to do a lot to align our efforts with China, for sure. Something that you cannot ignore. And you know that recently we had a joint committee. So we've pinpointed the roadmap so that we can actually convert ideas into actual steps on the ground. So we're very, very grateful to our Chinese partners for promoting this and for being so helpful and instrumental. And we definitely recognize this tremendous success. So as a Minister of Trade, look, I have to acknowledge the fact that once this Eurasian partnership is created, that brings together 15 largest Asia-Pacific, Asian, and Eurasian economies. So, of course, I mean, there'll be more member states, but it's happening. More and more countries joining this big platform. And, if you will, platform, yes, let's use this term, yet another step towards lifting those walls, removing those barriers. And without further ado, I would like to actually pass the floor to Yuri Zahua, Deputy Head of Commerce of China. Yes, please.
尊敬的斯内普内府委员，
Уважаемый Андрей Александрович, уважаемые коллеги, прежде всего,
Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, on behalf of my ministry, on behalf of Chinese Republic, I would like to first of all congratulate you, congratulate all the members of this Congress. Welcome. So as we speak, because of the coronavirus, so only when we're together, this is the only way forward. So since the beginning of the year, since the beginning of this year, we had several negotiations, several rounds, and we've managed to achieve tremendous improvement when it comes to trade and economic development between our countries, and have definitely improved our ties. So China, of course, plays a very important role, and definitely will be, of course, supporting this activity, and definitely we would like to see stronger economic ties, stronger connectivity between the members, and this is something that we discuss very strongly within the Communist Party, and we would like to see stronger social and economic ties, and hopefully China will see more mutual benefits with the rest of the Eurasian participants. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, at the recent sitting of the Communist Party, so we specifically adopted the next 5 years of our economic and investment policy, and as you know, China as a country, of course, wants to continue to invest in infrastructure, to focus on technology and economic progress, and want to continuously expand this initiative, bringing together multiple parties. So, and we're absolutely happy to, first of all, collaborate with all other countries and with mutual trust and respect. And so, first of all, we would like to, of course, discuss on a totally different level the single economic space, to discuss whatever needs to be installed in terms of trade, economic ties, and definitely, hopefully, jointly together, I hope that we can install all the necessary measures and steps. And hopefully this will be on a mutually beneficial basis. So the idea is to have an uninterrupted flow of goods between the member states. And the idea is to have free and uninterrupted movement of goods, products, and services. I'm talking about railway transportation, I'm talking about road, I'm talking about one way, one road, to make sure that warehousing, logistics, and all other initiatives are in place so that we can take this to the next level. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, so China is ready to work together, hand by hand, with other countries. And hopefully we can ensure safety and security and make sure that one way, one road initiatives is welcomed and definitely benefits all other member states. So, thank you very, very much.
Повысить эффективность таможенного оформления в приграничных портах и пропускающую способность товаров, выявить роль международного железнодорожного грузового маршрута Китай-Европа и совместно построить логистические и складские центры, а также создать стальной караван Евразийского континента с целью активизации строительства экономических коридоров, таких как новый Евразийский мост.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much. A lot of very, very impressive initiatives such as the steel caravan and the free trade between Eurasian Union and China, something that we'll look at, something that we would like to see in place, something that we are definitely looking forward to. And of course, I mean, we need to also see it on the ground. But definitely it's great that the intention is there. And maybe taking advantage of the opportunity because of the online format, we can actually teleport to Brussels. And I would like to give floor to Mr. Chizhov, by the way. Chizhov, everybody knows, the permanent representative of Russia in the European Union. So I remember there was a time when, look, there was so much intensity around this whole Eurasian space that you were at the forefront. I think you were out there. So, and you've seen it all. So today, yet another stage. So where do you see the potential? So are you seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to say? All the initiatives and everything that's been talked about here today. Do you see a positive outcome? No, thank you very much. So, my name is Vladimir Alexeyevich. Oh, really? Oh, okay. My bad. I forget your surname. So, I indeed contributed a lot to the current state of things when it comes to Eurasian space. And as a permanent representative, I've been, of course, lobbying these ideas since the very beginning. And since the first time when this idea was presented. And I guess there's classic diplomatic and there's also active diplomacy. And it's different from traditional diplomacy. So, and look, when it comes to Russia versus EU, there's been ups and downs, I would say. Yeah, there's been ups and downs. But downs. There's been a lot of downs, but also ups. So let's focus on the topic today. So, look, when it comes to globalization, so you see that it's like a pendulum, and for multiple reasons, things that used to be common sense are no longer that way. For example, it becomes absolutely clear that in this very complex world, not the West, but other continents are becoming more and more prominent. And you definitely see that it's happening very, very quickly, and very, very soon we're going to see a totally different power game. And everyone's saying that, look, I mean, the percentage of Europe in politics, in business, is shrinking. They all say that it's a multipolar world. And it forces us, of course, to install a different set of rules and to do things differently, not the way we used to before. But I wouldn't be too negative, or I wouldn't be sugarcoating it at the same time. So I don't think it makes sense to actually run away from Europe as if it's done, as if it's over. Right? Nothing is absolute here. Nothing is absolute. And don't forget that this Eurasian space is yet another chapter. And because it's Eurasian, it also has the European part, and it's just a reflection of everything that is happening right now in the world. So let me remind you that the whole idea of the big Eurasia, the big Eurasian partner, came in 2016. And the whole idea of this initiative is very, very pragmatic. It's about having a beneficial economic regime so that we can develop energy, transportation, information, and other elements of the infrastructure to make sure that we can mutually benefit from the economic standpoint, so that we can have a more fair and more effective financial relationship and economic relationship. So it's actually a very clear-cut picture. We all want the same thing. We all want to win. I want to make sure that there's mutual trust, respect, mutual benefit, mutual prosperity. Well, it's easier said than done, of course. But the idea is very, very good. So we see a European Union as a generally very successful union, very unique, I would say, integration project. I'm not saying it's without flaws. It has flaws. But by and large, there's something to be said about all the advantages that have been brought. So, since 1951, when the Union of Coal and Steel was found, since that time, the European Union is still there. Otherwise, where do all these new countries that want to be new member states come from? They still want to be part of it. There's still, I mean, look, yes, of course, there are countries that are doing Brexit, like UK, but other than that, look, it's been 40 years of membership, by the way, for the UK, and the UK has been a member. But they say that the UK has never been full member. Even the currency, they still sterling instead of euro. So the fact that they were sort of 1 foot out the door, it's always been that way. So that said, look, it's not the only integration example, a successful one, but we shouldn't be black and white about it. Look, you know that EU was actually built to prevent another war in Europe in the first place. So, and that's why France and Germany, the two leading EU states, the founders decided to actually limit capabilities of new war, and they took away coal and steel. So, but as far as the Eurasian Union, it wasn't about the new war. It has nothing to do with that. So our idea was purely economic. So we wanted to do something that was in a purely economic plane. So, and that's a totally different ballgame. And that itself creates so much more flexibility. There's no need to think about the new war. We're thinking about improving lives and improving economic conditions. So all I want to say is that, look, of course, we look back at the EU, and in terms of regulation, we borrowed a lot from the European Union. But that said, of course, we took it a lot, considering the local situation in the Eurasian space. For example, you know that at a time, Brussels ran into dilemma to continuously expand and welcome new member states versus to stop doing that and reinforce it from the core. And the expansion turned out to be not the most wisest decision, Yeah, it seems natural, but the fact that you speed up this expansion, it actually brought only flaws and no benefits. And because of that speed, the haste, they suffered the depth of integration. And let me give you a couple of examples. So, for instance, in the beginning of the year, when the pandemic broke out, look at what member states were doing. They tried closing their borders. This is the first thing they did. And the fragility of these artificial European values became apparent. Some say it's stubbornness, and especially Poland and Hungary. Look at Poland, Hungary versus the rest of the EU situation because of the COVID. Yes, there are people, look, that are still considering entering the Union, but that said, something not to be rushed. Not to be rushed. It is something that we need to reinforce from the core and then expand. Look, whether it's EU or whether it's Eurasian Union, look, it has to be done with respect to the local situation. So, and look, both EU and Eurasian have had their share of economic perturbations, economic difficulties, and the only way to combat any of that is together, of course, because, I mean, the economic ties are inseparable. And all the Eurasian countries have been doing business with each other for a long, long time. But when you want to step beyond that, of course, it takes a little bit of a different setup. Unfortunately, the sanctions that were installed against Russia and now the Belarusia, and in turn protectionism, that is definitely not serving the situation. And by the way, you also see very, very similar situation in the European Union. There are some really weird and unexpected protectionism measures, such as initiatives that directly violate WTO measures, such as all sorts of protective barriers, and also installing new measures that are all sugar-coated and disguised as good, such as, welfare, protecting animals, protecting the planet, environmental friendliness, and things like that. So there are a lot of mixed practices. So, in terms of best performers, I think businesses know it better than anybody else because they actually do it every single day. So, and look at all the round tables, including the one in Verona. And I was there, by the way. I've been there several times, and I spoke there several times. I mean, they demonstrate, like I say, a more, I would say, common sense. When it comes to business, they are so much more common sense. There is no ideology whatsoever, because that's what they do. They do business. But when it comes to European politicians, they actually see Eurasian Union very, very cautiously. They, of course, would like to instead build bilateral relationship with each and every specific country rather than the Union itself. Still, there's European Union and there's the Eurasian Union. And there has to be a dialogue on the level of two unions instead of a union versus a specific member state, which is what the EU is trying to do right now. Besides that, let's not forget there's one more thing. So it happened, and I guess it's historical, so that these two unions, at the same time, they basically represent the two pillars of the Eurasian civilization. Historically, and by the way, the big Eurasia concept is not about creating some sort of an exclusivity club. It's not an exclusivity club. And we don't want that. And we don't want to do it. Well, let's not forget about the North America, the United States. I mean, a lot of people think that, when it comes to any borderlines, be it political, be it physical, be it any other way, it's actually not a healthy thing to do. So let's not alienate the United States at the same time. So, and not just in Brussels, But look, I mean, not just EU and Russia, by the way. Let's see, look, Russia. Russia is European/Asian country. 11 time zones. So we are located in both Europe and in Asia. And we have strong ties with ASEAN countries, with China. But we're not doing friendship with them versus Europe. We are basically doing what we represent as a country. We geographically have been part European and part Asian. So, and that's why we naturally tend to work with both. So there's no either or. So we see it as a whole holistic process. Yes, there are multiple benefits, and it's a different strategy, the East versus the West. But and the same goes, by the way, for the Chinese One Belt, One Road. So which way do you go? Towards each other or away from each other? Well, that is something that we need to decide upon. On my behalf and on behalf of Russia, we, of course, always try to accommodate each other's interests. And I know where's a will, there's a way, and we definitely can't circumvent all the challenges and find common ground. So now we need to listen to the neighbors from the EU and see which path they will choose. I'll take it from there. Thank you. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you very much for your comments. And by the way, on my behalf, I would like to, well, you had a birthday yesterday, so congratulations on the birthday. Continued success and stay safe and healthy. So, looking great, by the way. And up next, I would like to give the floor to our next speaker. We have Gan Shvarma. Yes, the ambassador of India here in Russia. And some say that the challenges related to technology, pandemic, digitalization, and things like that, some say that the government of India trying to be even more autonomous. And the so-called Make in India and things like that. But at the same time, I know that India is very, very active when it comes to trade policy. We know that India tried to be very, very active member on the global and bilateral stage. And look, so all the PARSEC, India has always been mentioned as someone who didn't sign RSEC. And look, we talked about it before, and I know that India has its own view on the whole big Eurasia thing. So I would like you to share your viewpoint of where you see it and maybe some of your comments as to your participation to some of the regional and Eurasian initiatives. Just give us the view of India, the new reality, the COVID situation. How has that impacted the India standpoint in this regard? Please, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Greetings to all the participants. Congratulations to the distinguished ambassador in Brussels on his birthday. Eurasia concept is not new for India. This winter, like winters for several thousands of years, the Amur falcon bird and the Siberian crane come to India to rest during the winter. So this is a natural connection that we have with the Eurasian landmass, not just through the flight of birds, also with the people and the countries of the region. India enjoys excellent bilateral relations with almost all countries in Eurasia, particularly with Russia, our special and privileged strategic partner, with Central Asia, and the list can go on. India has supported President Putin's initiative for the Greater Eurasian Partnership. In our view, the geographical extent of Greater Eurasian Partnership is as a platform for cooperation, for dialogue, has immense potential. Often in descriptions, it is called from Lisbon to Vladivostok. Yes, that is true. There is no difficulty with our accepting the point of Lisbon to Vladivostok. But from India, we would also like it to be seen from Yamal to Chennai, from the Yamal Peninsula in the north of Russia in the Arctic to Chennai. So the east-west line should be complemented with the north-south line, which gives the totality of the Eurasian landmass. We feel connectivity is very important. The International North-South Corridor, which celebrates this year 20th year of its proposal, is extremely important for India. For Iran, through Russia, through Central Asian states, the Caspian Sea, through Russia, onto Europe. We are also very supportive of the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor that Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced during his visit to Vladivostok in September 2019. This connects naturally with the Northern Sea route and very logically fits in with not only India's Far East policy, but also with the new developments in the Arctic region. India is an observer in the Arctic Council, but looks forward to increasing its engagement with the Arctic. We also feel that any connectivity project should be through cooperation. Connectivity is for mutual development. Connectivity is not for domination. Connectivity is for economic growth. Connectivity is not for debt creation. And any connectivity projects should be consistent with the principles of international law, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, and should be taken forth through a process of dialogue and consultation. Connectivity is not just physical connectivity. We also look for trade and commercial connectivity, digital connectivity through technology and infrastructure. We also look for connectivity of people to bring the peoples together through culture and civilizational links. It is very important that we take this forward through process of dialogue. India has initiated a dialogue with the Eurasian Economic Commission for a trade agreement. We are confident that we will take this forward next year and it will be mutually beneficial. One estimate says that a trade agreement between India and the Eurasian Economic Union will boost bilateral trade with the region between 30 to $50 billion. There's huge potential. India is actively involved with energy projects, not just in Russia, but in Central Asia. We intend to increase our energy engagement in the Arctic region. Similarly, we look for greater cooperation between Eurasian Commission and India bilaterally. We support greater engagement between the Eurasian Commission and the ASEAN. Similarly, with the European Union, which will complement these areas of cooperation. India is already an active member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This body also contributes to partnership programs, cooperation programs that will create stability in the region. But the Eurasian concept is something that we support and we would like to take it forward. Let me end by responding to the question of the distinguished coordinator. This is regarding India's Atmanirbhar program, what is called Make in India. I think sometimes it is misunderstood as India becoming more nationalistic and more protectionist. Yes, India wants to focus on its national development, national economic development. That is our first and foremost priority. But we are not closing our doors to the outside world. India is a country of 1.3 billion people, but we cannot be just a market for the outside world. We want to develop our national capacities so that we are better prepared to engage with the outside world, to promote reformed globalization, to take it forward so that there is benefit not just for our foreign partners, but there is benefit for our country as well. Now, the recent COVID pandemic has given a very good illustration of what India can do. We have provided pharmaceutical and health support to 150 countries. When the beginning of the pandemic, there was not a single production unit in India which produced PPEs and ventilators. Today, we are exporting PPEs and ventilators to a large number of countries in the world. In the area of vaccines, of course, there is very good cooperation already underway between Russia and India bilaterally, but both Russia and India have taken the view that what we do should be for the larger global good. India has more than 60% of the vaccine production capacity in the world. We are developing our own vaccines, but we are also open to cooperation with a number of our international partners. And I'm happy to inform that all the major vaccine production companies in the world have established cooperation agreements with India. And we are very happy that through the RDIF of Russia, we have a very good program of taking forward testing and production of the Sputnik 5 vaccine. And we would like to congratulate our Russian friends for being the first to bring forth a world-class vaccine onto the world stage. And after due regulatory approvals, I'm sure it will be used in India and other parts of the world. So therefore, let me congratulate the organizers for this excellent seminar. Despite all the difficulties of the COVID, this dialogue is continuing, and let me assure you that India stands firmly in support of the Eurasian concept. We stand in support of dialogue, of cooperation, of connectivity based on certain principles, and we wish the organizers all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you. Да, действительно, измерение север.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And indeed, so north, south. That's very important. It's like a coordinates, southeast, northwest. I mean, India is growing, of course. India is a global economy, it's a global culture, and it should never be underestimated. And look, we've been saying it many, many times. Connectivity, again, we're pronouncing this word, connectivity, in all sorts of ways. And the ambassador of India has just said it. So, and also people's connectivity, right? Civilizational connectivity, not just technology and digital. But again, on a high note, this is a very, very political high note. And with that, we need to transition from politics to more pragmatic economic one. And I would like to give floor to Mr. Shokhin, by the way, President of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. Please, Mr. Shokhin. Businesses are about money, it's about practicality, it's about being real. So what say you when it comes to everything that's been voiced here today? So, and of course, we want to relaunch that investment cycle. And I would like to take it from you. As the president of the union, are businesses ready? What's their take on everything that the government is doing? Just how excited are you? Is there a strong appetite for this kind of investments? Something that would help us, deliver these massive macroeconomic projects. So please, sir. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. And right away, let me just say that our business is ready to stand up and go. Look, we never stopped. Businesses never stop. We've always been there, and we've always been during the crisis, not crisis. We've been doing this since the dawn of time, and that's what businesses do. Of course, I would like to see new drivers, We'd like to, of course, see more favorable conditions. We'd like to see better opportunities on the global markets, and so everything that is happening right now in terms of the crisis, it actually makes it even more acute. And let's not forget that according to the World Bank, because of the pandemic, they say that the loss resulting from the COVID, including the recovery costs, they say we're talking about $7 trillion minimum. And therefore, all this recovery and the investments required to go back to the pre-crisis level and to also adjust business model, that's something that every company has as a priority, including, of course, Russian companies that are located in the Eurasian Union. So, and of course, the role of big transnational agreements is becoming very, very important. And as you very, very correctly mentioned, this transnational Eurasian partnership is very, very important. And the signees to this agreement, they actually suffered less, according to statistics, compared to other countries. So in terms of foreign direct investments, we have minus 15%, whereas on the global scale, we see minus 40% on foreign direct investments. And that just goes to show that, look, this kind of integration actually works. It serves as a cushion, and it helps protect countries and member states when there's pandemic, when there's adversity, something as a black swan. So, and therefore, of course, we support and welcome this kind of development. So, and of course, we also need to talk about the big Eurasian partnership and far beyond. Look, I know it's just an idea so far, and the companies and the businesses are not yet ready, and they're definitely not yet part of this project. And for a number of reasons, of course, and I can give you a couple of these ideas. Well, definitely the government and the businesses need to have the same viewpoint of what they talk about. What is this big Eurasian partnership? We need to have the same viewpoint, because everyone has their own idea, their own initiatives when it comes to connectivity and synergies. Everybody has something of their own going on. So we need to be very, very open and transparent when it comes to what exactly do we mean. What is it exactly? They say some focus more on Europe, some focus more on Asia, other parts, etc. So on a formal basis, basically many of these companies are saying yes, we do support, etc. So, and quite recently, for instance, there was a joint statement from Russia and China. So, and for the development of their relationship, and it's a good initiative. Both countries, and by the way, the Eurasian integration was also supported by both Russia and China, and that is tremendous, of course. And Russia also supported the One Belt, One Road initiative. But it's not just about supporting it from the political standpoint, not just the political statement, but what are you going to do on the ground? How are you going to actually find real benefits, right? What are you actually going to do about it? For example, one belt, one road. So how are you going to actually benefit it in terms of actions? Political slogans are very, very nice, but what exactly are you going to do about it as Russia and as a company based in Russia? So far, I don't see any mechanisms on the ground. So, I mean, by and large, but it's all under construction. So, and by the way, what the Chinese representative said, look, there's going to be, based on what he said, there's going to be a Eurasian Union and China working together, I guess, right? There will be a free trade area. But again, it's not going to happen right away. But I guess in the future there will be one single big economic space where goods and products, and services can be exchanged freely. But it's somewhere down the road. So besides that, look, when it comes to joint projects, I mean, look, something that you can do here in Russia, and we need, of course, be very, very effective when it comes to relationship of the government and government bodies and government-led associations and the private sector. And that's why we need a one-window approach, so that these people know where to go and know how to find help if necessary. And look, that's the kind of role that we play as the Union of Industrialists. And there has to be, of course, a seamless economic space. And definitely, when it comes to economic output, it has to do with the size of the market. It has to do with the kind of costs that you bear. And you know that so international capital cannot ignore, this kind of development. For sure, Central Asia, the Eurasian Union, no international capital can ignore such things. So that there will be competition, of course. There will be a natural competition for the source of capital and also for the access to these markets, because international capital seeks yield. And we need to be mindful of that, and therefore the regulation should reflect that, and want to make sure that we have infrastructure ready, including the financial infrastructure ready to welcome such investments, ready to actually be friendly towards all of these stakeholders. Well, for example, the Nur Sultan Financial Center, I think, is a very good example in Kazakhstan, where they actually found somehow a way to accommodate different stakeholders. I think that the more of these kind of examples, you find, the better. It can be focusing the logistics, the exchange market, whatever it is. The idea is to make sure that the access to the market, access to this or that part is easy and seamless. It has to be seamless, of course. So, besides that, one more thing is that, look, we need to make sure that all stakeholders work together. There has to be a joint effort of all stakeholders. And look, this can be an institutional-led approach. And in this regard, well, for sure, very, very important to develop all the elements that we actually have within the Eurasian Union. And we have a lot of good things going on here. We have the Eurasian Commission, and we collaborate within the business unions, for example, within the 5 countries, within the Eurasian countries. We also collaborate very, very closely too with the governments of these 5 states, as well as the businesses. So we have a lot of good developments, a lot of interesting innovations here that we can share. For example, the new customs code. For example, you know that in terms of customs clearance, we've done tremendous. I'd say we've advanced a lot, such as technical regulations, standards, and things like that. We've done a lot in this regard, or also digitalization and things like that. We've also advanced tremendously when it comes to financial markets, pharmaceuticals, and things like that. And we also advanced a lot in the energy markets, power markets, and lots of other more incumbent and traditional markets. So that is another initiative. So definitely by 2025, there will be a much more tight and much more integrated space. So, and of course, as far as Eurasia's Business Council, we definitely need some sort of a business association, like a big Eurasian business association, because we need businesses to talk to each other, not by the government, but directly. We need common grounds. We need common points. We need ways to collaborate, because ultimately it's business to business. And I represent business. And when it comes to digitalization, and this also has to be done through digital means as well, and that is definitely a stepping stone to a much more united, much more welcoming situation. So, and hopefully, Big Eurasia is not just going to be a cool name, but something of substance, something that will definitely serve the needs of both the government, the business, and the public. Now, when it comes to the pandemic and the current economic crisis, we definitely need to be resourceful. We need to be resourceful, mutually resourceful. And why not, for example, have a wedge approach so that we create some sort of R&D clusters. And these R&D clusters could actually help share or technologies in the most effective way. So, and look, when it comes to Big Eurasia, it's still on paper, but that said, look, let's go back in time to BRICS. Back in the day, it was just a nice idea. It was just a political idea. So meeting after meeting after meeting, and then BRICS from being a theory turned into practice. So bit by bit, see, we started to build infrastructure, including the banking, the payment infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. So it's happened bit by bit. So we did it with BRICS, now we can do it with the big Eurasia idea. So we definitely need to continuously promote this idea through the BRICS states and through the SCO stage, for sure, for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, so and through other unions and associations. So, like I said, and there's a separate topic, the relationship with the European Union, and hopefully, Vladimir, next year you're gonna have a lot of fun. You know that Russian businesses, they are very much into this whole transnational carbon regulation, hydrocarbon regulation. Of course, we want to make sure that it is used as something that for fair competition. Of course, we don't want any unfair competition around it, because any tool can be used for the good or for the bad. I have nothing against CO2 emissions and things like that. Sure, green deals, ESG, etc., but it has to serve business, and we need to make sure that we don't politicize ESGs, and want to make sure that one doesn't kill the other. So, and by the way, speaking of that, so these kind of mechanisms, these kind of settlement mitigation mechanisms, checks and balances within the big Eurasian space, this is something that also need to be tackled. And there has to be this flagship project that this big Eurasia, so there's something that will make this big Eurasia not just a nice brand, not just a nice sounding word, but the effective mechanism that serves business. Thank you, Mr. Shokhin. So, but I want to take it like a really in practical way. So, and thank you for doing all these initiatives and so everything that you've mentioned, such as the Business Association of the Big Eurasia, such as the R&D platforms and things like that. So, you definitely juxtaposed it to BRICS idea. So, I had started from politics and went down to business, right? That's how it always happens. It starts with business, with politics, and then ends up on the business level. Or it can be the other way around sometimes. Sometimes things start with business and then end up in total politics. And we don't want that. Thank you, by the way. I would like to pass it on to Johan, of course, and he represents, of course, Schneider Electric. So you represent European business. Okay. And European businesses can actually be at the helm, right, of big Eurasia from the technology and economic and other viewpoints. And the political situation is not the best. Let's put it that way. And I would say it's a limiting factor. So what needs to be done? What do European companies want? Need to be done. Companies that are present, like Schneider Electric here in the Eurasian space, what do they want to see to for this to turn into this whole pan-continental initiative? And by the way, a separate question about the Big Eurasia Business Association.
Thank you very much. The position of the European Business People Association of European Business is very straightforward. We really are thinking that the Eurasian Economical Initiative is doing a fantastic job. It only exists for 5 years. It is the most successful attempt of economical integration in this part of the world that we have seen. It is trying indeed to liberalize free movement of people, capital, services, and goods. Is it perfect? No, of course not. A lot of work still has to be done, but then again, if you look at the European Union, it is a project that is there for decades, and we also still there are far from having a perfect organization. The ambassador was mentioning Brexit. We have the disputes with Hungary and Poland about the funding of the budget. So it is normal that it is a process, but the trend is very, very positive. And we are very happy with it, because everything which is helping business is a thing that we welcome. And this is helping European companies to do business in the Eurasian Economical Zone in different fronts. I mean, I can give some practical examples like a custom harmonization. There are still some tariffs and non-tariff which are applicable, but a lot has been done there. So for European companies, it's easy to bring in equipment into the zone and then, you know, ship it wherever we want to, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia. It goes very, very fluent and very, very cost efficient. European companies also, they have production in Eurasia. My own company, we have production in Russia, which is then being used to sell stuff to Kazakhstan, but also the other way around. We have opened a production facility in Atyrau in Kazakhstan, and the products there are being shipped into Russia. So it is not just a unilateral story, Russia, the rest of the countries. It's really working. We welcome it because we think that it's also a way to service countries which international companies otherwise might overlook. If, for instance, there would be still a need to set up a full-fledged independent commercial logistic organization in Armenia or in Kyrgyzstan, some international companies would basically just, you know, not pay attention. Today, many of those companies are servicing, for instance, Kyrgyzstan via their Kazakh organization, Armenia out of Russia. It's at the end of the day also good for those countries because they get the very latest technologies delivered. Otherwise, they might be overlooked. We welcome the technical harmonization, the fact that certification done in one place is sufficient for the entire zone. I think it's a very good thing as well for the end user, because if every country has its own certification requirements, it is a cost. The cost at the end of the day is included in the price, so it's really also there helping the consumers. The flexible labor market is a real thing. I mean, in my own case, Schneider Electric, if you have a big project in Russia, we can ship in or qualified engineers from Kazakhstan. The other way around, when we have a big project in Kazakhstan, or Russian engineers can help. So this is also very, very positive. So as such, it's a good thing for business, and the European companies are welcoming it. We would like to see, however, a stronger cooperation between the EU and the Eurasian Economical Union. And there, indeed, maybe that's more a topic that we have to address in Brussels rather than here. But it is a fact that while the EU is concluding trade agreements with trade blocs all across the world, they don't do that with the Eurasian Economical Union. It is a fact that high-level talks between EU officials and Eurasian Economical Commission officials are not taking place. It is always on a lower kind of a level. Why is that? You mentioned it. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. There are the geopolitical tensions which are there. There is a perception, let's be frank, in certain of the European countries that the Eurasian Economic Union is basically a Russia project. It is the way for Russia to project its will or its drive on the other countries in the Union. Yeah? We are not sharing that view, but some countries, some people in Europe are thinking that, and that's the reason why they say we don't see a high-level contact between the two trading blocs, because why would we help, quote, unquote, not my quote, why would we help, Russian imperialism, drive their ambitions? It is there, and I don't think we can ignore that this is really, muddling the debate. Do we have to dream for a full-fledged free trade zone between Russia and the EU? This is today not realistic. It's not realistic because of, indeed, there are political disagreements. It's also not realistic today because, also to be frank, the Russian economy itself, in many cases, would not be open for a full-fledged free competition without certain barriers. For certain segments like oil and gas, metallurgic industry, yes, the Russian industry would benefit from a free inflow without barriers of Western technologies. But for other technologies, it would be difficult for Russian companies to compete. It's also a fact. By the way, it's normal. When we look at the accession talks of Uzbekistan to the Eurasian Economical Union, they have a similar kind of concern towards the Russian companies. They are concerned that many Uzbek companies at this stage could also not compete yet with Russian companies. There are mechanisms to address that. But we believe that for the EU, it is a missed opportunity. They need to step up. I mean, that's a call from business. They really need to step up because of the fact that we talk about Eurasia. The name Eurasia means that it is absolutely normal that Eurasian economies are having trade links with both Europe and with China, with Asia, and with, as the ambassador of India was saying, with India as well. This is normal. We, of course, like to see a Lisbon to Vladivostok space, economical space. But if, because of the politics, because of the, what I call the unintended consequences of Western sanctions, if we are driving Eurasia more and more to the east, that's not good for European business either. I mean, this is not in our interest. And you know, I had a personal eye-opener myself earlier this year, just before COVID was closing down the travel possibilities. I was visiting Uzbekistan, who has accession talks with the Eurasian Economical Union. I mentioned the concerns that they have in Uzbekistan as well. But we went to Samarkand. Samarkand, the old Silk Road, beautiful place, we all know. And there we visited the factory of a German truck manufacturer, MAN. You might know the name. We talked to the German management there, and I really learned two things there. First of all, the German management of the MAN factory in Samarkand, they really hope that Uzbekistan will also become a member of the Eurasian Economical Union because it would be easier for them to ship their trucks to the wider zone. Okay, that was something that we had expected. But the most remarkable thing I learned there was when we were looking into the production side of that truck manufacturing, we saw that still today a lot of the parts which were used to assemble the trucks are coming from European companies, often small and medium companies based in Germany, based in Italy, based in France. But more and more, because of the improved, it was mentioned, Belt and Road project, those European supplies are being indeed replaced by supplies from Asian, from Chinese vendors. And why was it an eye-opener for me? I had actually always, as a European, looked in the Belt and Road initiative as a way, improved infrastructure, for China to sell its end products to the European market or to the Asian market for that part of the Belt and Road. It until that moment really not concurred to me that the whole supply chain in between China and industrialization, all the manufacturing that you will find in Eurasia, also there, the spare parts, all the other goods might to a large extent come from China, no longer from European countries. So the fact that Europe itself has to step up its connectivity is in the interest of European companies. It is in our interest that we do that. And how best to do it than to have a dialogue immediately, in my view, EU, Eurasian Economical Union, to really come up with a vision, a European vision on how to improve this connectivity as well. If we want indeed to stay relevant from Lisbon to Vladivostok and don't see just a zone from Beijing to Kaliningrad, which is not in our interest either. So this is basically the observations. We are thinking it is a very good project. We're really calling as well from towards the EU to step up its own engagement towards the Eurasian Economical Union. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not only from Lisbon to Vladivostok, but as we heard from Yamal to Mumbai. Jamat. Okay, thank you so much. What about Big Eurasia Business Association?
Eurasian Business Association, we think makes sense.
Big Eurasia.
Pardon?
Big Eurasia.
Big Eurasia.
Yeah, whole the continent.
I don't know whether we need to have it Big Eurasia. I do believe that business associations and trade blocs, I mean, those people, they have to work together. Those people, they have to coordinate, also to tackle global challenges. global challenges. We faced one right now in 2020, a horrible one, COVID. COVID does not know any boundaries. We need to work together, but there is another global challenge, which is climate change. It also does not know any boundaries. It is a driver for adaptation of new technologies, renewable technologies. I think this is a thing whereby Europe and Eurasia can really work much closer together. We have the ambitious Green Deal that is launched by the EU. We talk about technologies allowing decarbonization, decentralization, digitization, super important, electrification. If we can only, in a PPP mode, make sure in the big Eurasia zone that we are really cooperating. Climate change is, the biggest challenge, is bigger challenge at the end of the day than COVID. I mean, for COVID, there is a vaccine available, Sputnik 5 and others. You put the vaccine in your arm, COVID will disappear. Climate change is a little bit more difficult, but it is an opportunity. Yeah?
Спасибо большое. Спасибо, да, это важный комментарий. То есть все-таки есть...
Yes, actually, thank you very much. Indeed, this is a very, very good point. Indeed, something to think of because there's some things are bigger than COVID. True, and when it comes to climate change, it is something that is far, far bigger. And by the way, we recently talked about it at SPP. So, look, I truly believe that. I truly believe that it is something that, we need to definitely think of when it comes to climate change and the Eurasian Union and all that. So, carbon neutrality, I think that is something that we can definitely work with, something that we can indeed do a lot, and the cooperation there should definitely happen because climate change is definitely much bigger than any COVID out there, for sure. Now, as far as the next item, I definitely would like to address Mr. Falika. So, Mr. Falika, look, as far as your forum in Verona, so it's been mentioned several times here, and very, very high esteem. People are praising the Verona forum, and you did good. Amazing. So, very, very interesting debate. And something that I would like to ask you. So, okay, here's a simple question. Please, why don't you share this weekly marathon, the result, the output of all the debates and all the things that have been happening here within the context of our debate. So, please, sir, share your outputs of this forum.
Дорогие друзья, благодарю вас за приглашение, за предоставленное слово.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I can't be present with you, so I have to do it by Zoom. So, look, when it comes to pandemic, when it comes to all the limitations, so something that not only affects our lives, but look, of course, it does affect so many things out there. So, during the Verona Forum, we talked about the new ways for economic and political collaboration, and it's something that the reason China has been mentioned several times, the reason it's so big, and China definitely takes a very strategic role. And I think that what China is doing is very much an interesting way of being more global. And so far, I don't know. We have what we have. Look, this is a very multipolar world. So multipolar world, and we definitely, we could see the exact same in the economic space, this multipolarity. And look, when it comes to globalization, if I might say, this becomes more regional. I see that it's becoming more regionalized. That's at least what I'm seeing. So instead of like one big market that we used to have, we're now starting to see smaller markets. We see regionalization. We see several major regional markets. And this is something that is indeed happening. So we see the United States versus the European Union versus China. So, definitely with the Trump administration, the protectionism has become much more prominent in the United States and definitely propelled this process forward. And you see the efforts are absolutely clear. And early 2020, before the pandemic actually stopped the whole thing, but this regionalization has been around for quite some time. And yes, these are very, very diverse, I would say, political forces. And this splits up the society, and this splits up the business and the governments, and it somewhat reminds me of the Civil War between the North and the South in the United States. That was 150 years ago. So, but regardless, so the way out, of course, is through cooperation. Definitely not through the fighting. And China understands that. And China is changing its whole approach to development. China starting to focus on exports and also, well, they're now transitioning to internal consumption. They always been big on, domestic consumption, but now even more so. And especially with the sanctions and with the trade war from the United States, China is looking for new markets and new suppliers. And I think that the One Road, One Belt initiative has been actually propelled in many ways because of the whole situation with the Trump, adversities. And we see even more initiatives on the ground. And for China, it's very, very important to actually protect its GDP and its economic performance. So, and the fact that the idea is to create the largest free economic zone is just another stepping stone in that direction. So, and that would also include South Korea and Australia, by the way, the former allies of the United States. The fact that more and more countries will join this new big unified economic space and the union, that just goes to show that about 2 billion people will be in this development. Take Japan, for example, and Japan is an export-based economy. Think about it. Because of this new structure, Japan can reinforce its ties with other Asia-Pacific countries, including China, despite the fact that, from the political standpoint, these are adversaries. So, and that means that, yes, politics aside, economic progress is more important. So, anyways, because of the pandemic, social distancing, and other things, of course, all that plays a major role. But look, Brussels, unfortunately, was really, really slow in its development, and they should have known better. But whether they like it or not, they will have to make their choice, and they definitely need to step up their game. But it's not just about United States versus EU versus Asia. I mean, look at the Muslim world, for example. You also see some very interesting integration processes out there. So as a continent, the whole Muslim world is also looking at integration. And there are other integration processes that are taking place right now. So despite being broken and apart, people still understand and businesses still understand that there's room for integration, and these processes are taking place. Oh, and by the way, speaking of the local situation, hopefully the new elections in Kazakhstan will not be used for destructive purposes and instead for further integration. So hopefully this was a test that will produce a stronger and more aware economic and social ties, and hopefully this will produce an even tighter integration, and that is a prerequisite for a proper development. So, what is the best way forward? So, I believe that when it comes to collaboration versus competition, I think the focus should be on collaboration. You're definitely not going to go far with unfair competition or sanctions. So to truly benefit, we need to focus on joint work. So it has to be a win-win, not a win-lose. So I believe that there's another way, finding common grounds, something that we can, instead of competing and fighting, mutually benefit from. That is a better approach, looking at what we have in common. So I truly believe that this is something that we can enable. So, and I truly believe in fair and open competition. So, and I remember the victory in the Second World War, the D-Day. So, and that victory was only possible when countries came together, despite the fact that, yes, there was a lot of adversity, but these countries came together and they defeated the Nazism. Yes, very different countries, but they came together. That is the way to go. By the same token, I believe that we should come together and think about the benefits, the mutual benefits. Yes, we're different, but in our difference we can be together. And let's not forget that we can complement each other. We can complement each other and compensate for our weaknesses. So we talk about the supply and demand market. We talk about new innovations and new technologies, including transportation. So I truly believe that this can be a natural bridge between Europe and Asia. And Russia, of course, can play a particularly important role here. Even more so, the United States has to be included. Despite temporary difficulties, we should never alienate the United States. They can be a tremendous partner in this whole paradigm. And in the first place, we should think about the businesses. Yes, politics aside, we need to think about the benefits. Yes, and to make that happen, many marketplaces will have to maybe rethink some of their wrongs and maybe rethink their politics. So, finally, let me point at two factors, social and cultural. So, from the social and economic standpoint, it definitely is the most directly impacted component. And at least we need to do all of that to make sure that the social ties are built properly. And by the way, the kind of economic problems we have has to do a lot because of the broken social ties. And this then gives floor to inequality, misunderstanding, protectionism. So, of course, this can lead to social unrest. So we definitely need to make sure that from the social standpoint, we are friendly, that we focus on integration, on the heart, rather than adversities, because a social disintegration will unavoidably lead to economic disintegration, which is exactly what's happening today. So, and by the way, of course, I mean, digitalization cannot replace actual social communication between real humans, because that's what makes us human. Yes, digital is important, but it's only a component. but not a replacement. So everything that we're doing will benefit the society as we know it for years to come. And this will have a positive effect on economics, on healthcare, on social ties. And Russia, since it's placed both in Europe and Asia, can play a particularly important role here. And since in terms of spirit, it is something that can benefit both the European side and Asia. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Faliko. Appreciate it very, very, very much. And we're very, very close to finalizing it. And ladies and gentlemen, just let me recap everything that's been said here today. Well, first of all, let me focus on the development. So look, it's been said and done that they're not. What can we do? Think about it: tax policy, customs policy, budget policies, right? Stimulus, etc. But we've tried it, right, across the globe. What else can you do? Monetary, fiscal stimulus, etc. Well, how far can you take it? All of that has been done, right? What else can you tap into? So, do you see explosive growth of trade? I don't think so. Obviously, without additional effort, that is impossible. So we don't see that many global drivers. And what we have discussed just goes to show that this global driver is here. Basically, it's just right in front of us, right? This tremendous piece of land, this gigantic potential that can be unleashed through connectivity, through working together, through trans-Eurasian projects and through common agenda, so such as digitalization, such as climate, and all the other things right there. So all of that can definitely tremendously benefit and unleash that economic potential. So as far as civilization, as far as cultural ties, that is a very important topic. And let me just say that, look, globalization has, of course, provided us so many opportunities. We talk, we travel, we have the technology, we have social networks, and we can do so much in terms of, well, the whole collaboration, right? And we have this tremendous technology enablers, be it India, be it South Pacific Asia, be it Russia, be it Europe, European Union, and all that. We can do all of that. So, and I see three levels from the working with China. Number one, One Belt, One Road initiative. That's number one. This is where we want to be part of. We want to be part of this. We want to join it, and we have a very ambitious program. We'd like to be part of this One Belt, One Road initiative for sure, and we should be. And I think that. Considering that we have an agreement with China and we have an agreement with some of the ASEAN countries, so we're expanding the agenda. So definitely we'll be definitely going into that. So India, by the way, another country where we're very, very big and we want to be even bigger there. And one more thing, the EU, definitely we want to be friends. So far limited in terms of politics, but definitely the potential is there. So these three big chunks. So what is the final shape and size? You tell me, right? It's a work in progress, still under construction. So we give it a 360-degree view, and you make the final choice. But hopefully, it's going to be and end up positively. Thank you.
Дамы и господа, благодарим всех за участие в сессии Конгрессе. Напоминаем, что все трансляции и записи нашего Конгресса вы можете посмотреть на сайте congress.eabr.org. Спасибо.